Welcome to the Down South Hunting Podcast. I'm Adam Cruz, and I am flying solo on the intro tonight without my co-host Mike Higman. We weren't able to hook up to do this, but we've got a great episode coming up for you tonight. It's Jason Hart with Nomad Outdoors, and Jason's going to talk to us about the history of Nomad. We're going to talk about the new product line coming up in 2018, and I'm telling you, they have a great lineup as it consists of affordable yet truly quality gear. I've been running it since late whitetail season last year, ran some of their turkey gear in the spring this year, and I'm just beyond impressed. So I know you guys are going to love that. Definitely hang around, check out this interview. Also, hang around to the end. We have a surprise ending. We have a story from Mike. I think you guys are going to enjoy that. Mike does a little snake handling, and that's always fun. Thanks also to huntinggeardeals.com. They're our primary sponsor. We appreciate what they do for the podcast, and they've saved me a ton of money. So, hey, check them out. Get your hunting gear now. huntinggeardeals.com. Without further ado, let's get Jason Hart from Nomad Outdoors on the line with Mike Higman and Adam Cruz.
All right, we're really excited to have this guest. We've got Jason Hart from Nomad Outdoors. He is the VP of Sales, and he is one of the original co-founders. Welcome to the show, Hart.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's good to hear from both of y'all, and we certainly appreciate you having us on this evening.
Well, before we get too deep into anything, you just mentioned that you got up early this morning to go turkey hunting. So how about an update on how that hunt went, and how's your season gone so far?
Well, it's turkey season here in South Carolina. It's the last week, and I have a couple hunting clubs nearby, and unfortunately, South Carolina turkeys on hunting clubs around here, hunting clubs might as well be about like public land. So I've got a hunting club that's about 2,300 acres, and I think the other members have killed about 11 turkeys, and I've had to travel with work, and also on the weekends I've traveled for fun chasing turkeys. So I haven't got to hunt in South Carolina as much as I would have liked to, but anyhow, I didn't have any luck this morning. I hit the box call and made a perfect series of yelps after about an hour after daylight, and walked around the corner, and there was a long beard and a hen that didn't even acknowledge me whatsoever when I called, and of course they flew off. So my hunt was early this morning, but overall my turkey season's been okay. I've got to hunt in several states in Mexico so far, so I've taken birds, and I've taken all but the Merriam subspecies. Unfortunately, I missed one in Arizona over the weekend, so my single season roll slam didn't come to fruition. But at Nomad, we really like chasing turkeys, so this is my favorite time of year, and we've built a really good business on the turkey market in the springtime with our Nomad apparel.
Can you kind of tell us how you got into hunting? Did you grow up that way or get into it late? What's your history with hunting?
You know what? It's I've been absolutely infatuated with hunting since I was a little kid, and I kind of had a random path. My dad growing up, he grew up in a time period was born in the 30s, and at that time he was born in West Virginia, and at that time there were really only rabbits and birds. So although he didn't really grow up doing any large hunting, he was certainly an outdoorsman. And I kind of say that I've got a funny story how I got into hunting. Back in the 80s, when the movie Rambo came out, I thought it was the coolest thing ever, and I had to have a Rambo compound bow. So for Christmas that year, I got a Hoyt Rambo Jr. bow and started shooting it. Well, archery just had me. Thought it was the coolest thing ever. And so my parents would go to bookstores, and I'd wander off and be in the archery section and looking at bows and magazines. And that obviously led to me looking at hunting magazines, and one thing led to another. I had some cousins in West Virginia that hunted, and my brother-in-law, who's not much older than I, he was just getting into hunting at the time. So, I was almost somewhat self-taught. But as a little kid, I was an absolute hunting geek. Both my parents were bookworms, so every hunting magazine that I could get my hands on, I got my hands on. So by the time I was 11 years old, I had subscriptions to deer and deer hunting and North American whitetail and outdoor life and field and stream. So, that's kind of how it got started. And my brother-in-law, literally, he was in his 20s at the time, and he got into hunting about the same time. So he and I were kind of learning together here in South Carolina, and started deer hunting from there. And then I thought turkey hunting was the coolest thing ever, just from looking at magazines and watching VHS tapes and things like that. I got my hands on everything I could read about turkey hunting, but I didn't have any. There weren't any turkeys where I hunted near Beaufort, South Carolina, growing up. And then I got on a hunting club my junior year of high school that was loaded with turkeys, and nobody ever took me turkey hunting. Everything I learned was from VHS tapes and from magazines and books. And anyhow, I killed my first 2 turkeys that spring, 2 with 1 shot, 2 longbeards. So I've pretty much been hooked ever since. But been bow hunting since I was 9 years old, so I'm coming up on 30 years of chasing deer with a bow and arrow. But all in all, it's my whole life's passion and everything. I went to college, majored in wildlife biology because I wanted to get in hunting somehow, and that was the closest thing to major in college. So I went to Clemson University, majored in that, and pretty much everything I've done in life has been, and every job I've had has been geared towards the hunting and hunting industry.
So we know you're big into turkey hunting and hunting overall. Do you hunt out west at all? And do you prefer one species over another, say turkey over deer, or and do you waterfowl hunt? I'm interested in that.
Absolutely. Basically yes to all those questions. My first job out of college, I got hired by a company out of Tennessee that was kind of a new company back in 2000 called Avery Outdoors. So my first real job in the industry after college, I was selling Avery and selling rich and tone duck calls and mojo mallards. I really got to cut my teeth and got to hang out with some of the most well-known duck hunters in the business, just straight as I first started getting into it, like Freddie Zick and Kelly Powers and a number of them. We became buddies really quick. So duck hunting was passion, and then as I got in the industry and got a little bit older and got a little bit of money and made some friends out west in western hunting, started for me probably 15 years ago as well. And elk hunting has become a major passion of mine. I've been elk hunting now for about 10 years, and I'm eat up with it. It's definitely, turkey hunting is my number one, but elk hunting has become a close number 2. They're very similar. So I'm fortunate enough to kill a great 360-inch bull with a bow the year before last.
Wow.
Shot another nice one with a rifle this year, but I've had the opportunity to go on a couple Dall sheep hunts and mule deer hunts and antelope hunts, and I love it all. Western hunting is definitely different from what I grew up, hunting here in the swamps and hardwoods of South Carolina. But I love it all. It's as far as hunting's concerned, if I had to pick one, turkey hunting would be it. But man, I love duck hunting in the winter. I love chasing elk in September, and usually in November you'll find me, at least a week or so, you'll find me in the Midwest somewhere bow hunting for whitetails, and been to Africa a couple times. So just whatever it is, I love chasing it. There's really I've been fortunate being in the hunting industry now for 18 years. I've taken advantage of the relationships that I've made, and when people ask me if I want to go on a hunting trip, more than likely I'm going to tell them yes. So if I didn't hunt so much, I'd probably be able to live in a big nice house and maybe own a piece of land, but I pretty much spend most of my free time and most of my spare money on chasing critters somewhere.
So with all this travel you're hunting, I got a question for you. Would you rather only be able to hunt your home state of South Carolina or only do out-of-state hunts?
That's a tough question. I love hunting here in South Carolina, but with that being said, I love traveling. If I had to answer that question, it'd be out-of-state hunts. Although we're very blessed here in South Carolina to have a lot of sporting opportunities. The elk out west, the ducks and the the ducks in the central part of the country and the big deer in the Midwest would definitely sway me to
Keep you from staying
be
at home.
out of
Yeah.
state. For sure. Yeah. As much as I love hunting South Carolina, I can spend a week in Kansas and pass up 30 deer that are bigger than what I'll see an entire year sitting in a tree stand in South Carolina. So it's we can grow big deer here in South Carolina, but it's pretty difficult when you're hunting on hunting clubs with different chunks of land, and unfortunately, here the whole quality deer management is not quite caught on here in South Carolina like it has in other states. So it's definitely I tend to find myself spending a little more free time deer hunting elsewhere than here in my home state.
Hey, I'm curious as to why you made the transition from college as in the wildlife biology actually into business. Was there just something about business that you wanted to get into in the industry, or was it just hard to find a biology type job out of college?
No, I'll tell you how it happened was after about three years in college, I realized that I was pretty terrible at statistics. And being terrible at statistics, you're going to have a tough time getting a job as a wildlife biologist, a wildlife manager. And in college, I had a knack of throwing big parties at Clemson University, and one thing led to another, and I realized that I wasn't going to make a very good wildlife biologist because, number one, I didn't think I was going to be able to pass the statistics class to be able to get a master's degree, which is what you pretty much had to have. And so with that being said, I also realized that most wildlife biologists don't get to hunt as much as they like to. So that's kind of how it happened. It's funny where life takes you, how what you think you're going to do at 18 years old versus what really happens by the time you get out and where life takes you. I tell folks I've got a degree in wildlife biology, but I've been selling underwear for the most part for the last 15 years. So it's funny where life takes you for sure.
You're bad at math, so you got into sales just like Adam and I guess.
Yeah.
Exactly. I joke at folks when I talk about sales, and for the most part, I've been in sales for the most part of my adult career. At one time, when I worked for the QDMA, I threw fundraising events, and was a pseudo wildlife biologist with them for a little bit of time, and but for the most part, I've been in sales or marketing or whatever. When I tell folks I'm in sales, that you don't have to be good at math. You just have to be able to add numbers up on a calculator or add them up on a spreadsheet and you'll be fine.
Yeah. I want to ask about your time with QDMA. We're big fans of them, and we got the conference coming up. Are you planning on going out there?
Man, I'm going to try. I was an employee. I got hired by Brian Murphy, the executive director, who's still there of QDMA. I got hired back in the summer of 2001, and I was at QDMA for roughly about 3 years. So I was the first. Back then, I was like employee number 6 or 7, and what I did, what my role was there was I was in charge of the volunteer chapters, which QDMA called branches back then, and so we made a lot of headway. It was myself, and we had some great employees there at the time, like a good friend of mine, the late James Guthrie, who passed away a few years ago. He was in charge of their magazine, Quality Whitetails, and I can tell you this much: during my 3 years at QDMA, I learned more about deer and deer biology from some of the best deer minds ever. And that you could ever imagine getting, an education in from a university. I learned so much about deer, and QDMA is an absolute great organization. And, I've kept up. I'm still friends with Brian Murphy, now that, I've been gone. I haven't been employed for 14 years, but, it's an absolute great group, as far as education is concerned. And they're any money that's given to the QDMA as a nonprofit really goes to a good cause. So I'm still a huge fan of that organization, and I learned a heck of a lot during my time there.
will we see you at the QDMA convention this year?
Yes, I'm gonna plan on attending. It's in New Orleans this summer. So I was in New Orleans for New Year's. My alma mater, Clemson University, got their butt whooped by Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, but I had such a good time in New Orleans that I decided it would be a great excuse for me to get back to the city.
I'd have switched places as a Florida State fan. I'd have switched places with you this year.
Yeah. It was a rough year for the Seminoles, especially.
And Adam switched places with either one of us.
Yes, I'm a Tennessee fan, so we had the worst season we've ever had.
Rough seasons. Yeah. Did y'all ever get a coach at Tennessee? Have they picked one up yet?
Yeah, we took one Alabama. We're trying to keep peeling away coaches from Alabama until we find one that works. That's kind of our idea. So.
Well, it only took 20 shots to get a coach to say yes.
Yeah, that was
a dumpster fire.
Yeah. It's about getting about to that time, Adam, where we need to start talking college football again, I think.
It is. Yes.
I don't think we want to talk it with Hart though. He's got a little leg up on us at this point, so I'll keep him out of the conversation. How about we jump into Nomad?
There we go. Sounds good. We which randomly enough our company colors of Nomad are orange, and that does date the three of the four of us that founded the company are Clemson alumnus. So anyhow, that's a good segue into Nomad.
All right, yeah. Well, how about tell us how it got going, and I guess how it's grown to where you're at now.
Yeah, so we it's kind of a long story. I'll try to give the cliff notes. Back after I left the Quality Deer Management Association, I was the first hire back in 2004 for Under Armour's Hunt Fish division. So Under Armour was, really a startup athletic company at the time. So I think I was employee number 273 at UA back then, and I worked for UA's outdoor division for 7.5 years. And during that time, one of my old fraternity brothers from Clemson, we had brought him on board, Josh Reed, and he and I were both working in sales for Under Armour for years. Finally, after about 7.5 years of living in Baltimore, Maryland, I just got so homesick I couldn't stand anymore. I wanted to get back down south, and took a job with Mossy Oak brand camo. Well, while I was at Mossy Oak, I kept in touch with my old buddies at Under Armour, and one of my coworkers at UA at the time, Ben Verner, who had worked in the strategy and finances, and in addition was a fishing product line manager. He and Josh had gotten together, and we'd met at SHOT Show, and we got to talking about potentially starting our own company. And Josh's older brother Doc, who went to Clemson with us as well, was very interested also. So it was would have been fall of 2013 where we started talking about developing a fishing brand. We decided to call that fishing brand Hook, spelled H-U-K. We came up with that based off of phonetic spelling of the word H-O-O-K in the dictionary. The H-O-O-K was trademarked, so we were looking for a name that could unite all anglers. And so basically, while we were doing that, we said, hey, it might be easier for us to get money from investors if we start a hunting brand as well. And out of the four of us that started, I was the least passionate angler of the group, the most passionate hunter. So it kind of made sense. So for about 6 months, we tried to come up with a name for a hunting brand, and we struggled and struggled and struggled. It was, we had all had been working our other jobs, and finally it came down to the day that I was leaving my dream job at Mossy Oak brand camo. I was going to have to resign from that job, and I was moving out of apartments, and I was basically living out of a suitcase because I had just come back from a turkey hunt a turkey hunt in Wyoming, and was getting ready to leave on a turkey hunt in Nebraska. And a normal person would be worried about moving and their new company and resigning, but no, I was basically living out of my suitcase to go on another hunt. And I was in the shower shaving my head, taking a shower, and I said, this nomad lifestyle is whooping my tail. And I went, that might be a good name. So I jumped out of the shower butt naked and sent a text message to Doc Reed, Josh Reed, and Ben Verner. I was like, how about the name Nomad? So that is where the Nomad brand name came from, was from basically a nomadic lifestyle as many hunters tend to do, whether that's chasing the Grand Slam for the turkey in the spring, or an elk hunter heading out west and spending most of the fall in western states and migrating to different states, or a Midwestern bow hunter who, hunts Illinois, then goes to Iowa. And so we looked up the term nomad, and it was short for nomadic hunter. And it basically represented the first, the first human that left the cave to go out and provide food for his family, for his tribe. So we said, you know what, that nomad name is going to stick good. So that's where the name came from. It's basically the four of us left our jobs that we had in would have been the spring of 2014. So roughly 4 years ago, and it's basically been a wild ride since. We're up to, I don't know exactly how many employees, but with our Hook and Nomad brands, I think we roughly have about probably around 35 to 40 full-time employees. We've added several this week. We've got a independent rep sales force of about 30 people. And then we have probably about another 30 consultants working for us. So it's been both the brands, both our Hook and Nomad brand, have grown very, very rapidly. And it's been a wild 4 years for sure.
So I got a couple of comments. The first, I just figured out that I've been saying hook wrong. I've been saying hook for a really long time.
Exactly.
I hope we can get this message out.
No, absolutely. And it's, when we first came out with the brand name, Ben Verner, who, my business partner and one of our co-founders and is our CEO of the company, I said, Ben, man, people are just going to be confused about it. And he mentioned a surf brand called Ruka. And if you look at a T-shirt, it's a pretty popular brand amongst surfers. It looks like RVCA. And he says, you've ever heard of the Ruka? I said, I've never heard of it. He goes, he sent a picture. He goes, RVCA. I said, yeah, I know RVCA. He goes, no, that's Ruka. You have to be in the end to know it. So it literally has started conversations. And what it does is when people find out that it's actually Hook and not Huck, they correct other people, and it creates a minute-long conversation about our brand amongst consumers. And it basically, if you look in the dictionary, H-O-O-K is pronounced H-U-K. It doesn't rhyme with juke or spook or Luke or anything like that. So it's a Hook. So it's definitely been a choice of words that, I'll be honest with you, 4 years ago I wouldn't have banked on, but I was definitely wrong about it. It's become quite the success, and regardless of how people pronounce it, it's selling like hotcakes all over the country.
I see that more than any other fishing apparel brand that's out there. So definitely have done a good job getting that out there. And the other one was the Nomad. I thought that was genius. I can't remember when exactly I saw it, but one of my buddies, Rick Taylor, one day, I think he got on social media and posted pictures of Nomad gear coming in. And I just thought, okay, that is one of the best hunting brand names that I've ever heard, because that just, I don't know, it kind of embeds what I think of as myself, what I try to imagine myself as, or what I want to be, just getting around and hunting different places.
Very cool. Very cool. That was the intention. So we appreciate the comment. It's been, it's the hunting apparel side has been, it's definitely a tough market. There's been a lot of great brands come and go, and the last few years with the weather patterns in the fall being what it's been unseasonably warm. It's been hadn't been the easiest market for a new brand to take off, but it's been, it's been fun to see folks really gravitate to the brand name. And ultimately we wanted to create a brand that stands for hunters, built by hunters. We want to put our flag in the ground, and so the name has been successful. We've got a new word mark and a new logo that we'll be coming out with this fall. And so, we're hoping that the Nomad brand, although first and foremost, our goal is to build really good technical hunting gear that most hunters can afford. We also hope that it has a little bit of carryover, for as far as a casual wear brand, to where, a hunter, if somebody wants to, put their flag in the ground and say, hey, I'm a hunter, we hope that one day they'll, be able to grab a Nomad hat or a Nomad sweatshirt, and it'll be a sign of, and definitely a pro hunting type brand.
Well, Adam and I have been able to pick up a little bit of gear so far, and I love the stuff I've got. My wife's a big fan, which says a lot because she's not necessarily a fan of most of the camo stuff I got. So I think we're doing good on the casual side. I guess you're coming from Under Armour and from Mossy Oak, so obviously you've got quite a bit of experience on the apparel side of things. And I think you just kind of touched on it, but were there some specific things that you saw as an opportunity to start a new apparel company in the hunting and fishing markets based on your experience?
Oh yeah, absolutely. First off, in particular on the fishing side, our first idea was number one, there wasn't a brand out there that was catering to all anglers. There's some really great brands out there that had catered to the saltwater guys. Some really great brands that cater to the fly fishing guys, but there really wasn't a brand that was catering to both, or really the bass fishing guy. The entire competitive bass fishing market's a huge, huge opportunity. So, we saw that as really low-hanging fruit. So between the bass market and between the saltwater and the western fly fishing market, we've been very fortunate that in our eyes, we developed a brand, and it comes down to our marketing team, our brand team. Drew Herm has done a really good job of separating our, although you can wear the same shirt bass fishing as you can saltwater fishing, separating the marketing of the two. And we have very authentic saltwater imagery and branding that you'll see in a saltwater magazine, and very authentic bass fishing branding, and very authentic competitive bass fishing guys from on the Bassmaster Classic in any of our bass marketing. And on the hunting side, we ultimately wanted to be authentic. First off, during my time at Mossy Oak, got to work with some really great companies out there. But it was, what we found were, there were some companies out there that were dipping their toes in the hunting side of the business just to make extra revenue. But it wasn't a focus. There's other brands out there that were pure hunting brands that got it, but didn't quite understand the marketing, nor the distribution, nor the fabrics. So, we were very fortunate that we all came from a background where we were around performance apparel, but we were first and foremost very passionate outdoorsmen. So, for me, first and foremost, I'm a hunter. If I wasn't getting into the apparel business, for some reason I wouldn't have been hired to sell some apparel, and it would have been shotgun shells, then I'd be, trying to sell the best shotgun shells out there on the market. So for us, and it's just been, it's all about being authentic and being true to the core. And when we started our Hook brand, I even tried to get into saltwater fishing and things of that nature, and we finally realized that wasn't me. My other business partners were a lot better and a lot more authentic in that channel. And our big time guys that are huge into saltwater fishing aren't helping designing the turkey hunting product either. So although my title is sales, and we have other people in the company that may have various titles, such as our field operations guy that handles all of our trade shows, and our marketing guy. He's extremely passionate South Florida offshore fishermen. The folks that are in our business that are pursuing these various passions outside, have a major part of in developing the product. So, for our Nomad brand, we hired a good buddy of ours who was our buyer at Sportsman's Warehouse, Devin Sweeney. And, Devin and I have spent the last, he came on board early last fall. And we've really spent the last 6 months, brainstorming, trying to come up with better product. There's a trend right now. There's a couple different trends in the hunting industry. Right now, there's some great brands out there that started in the Western hunting market that have really great performance fabrics, really great gear. And then there's the other side, which are the mass merchants and the private labels out there, which are really building lower price point type products. So we want to try to merge, the really best fabrics, really best technologies and best designs out there, but having them at an affordable price point. So, we realized early on that the biggest category in hunting is the white-tailed deer hunter. That there's not really an average demographic for the white-tailed deer hunter. You can have anywhere from the most blue-collar guy to a doctor or lawyer that's very serious and passionate about deer hunting. And we want to be able to make apparel that your doctor or lawyer or your guy at the factory can afford and will be proud to wear. So that's kind of where our niche is we're there's some folks making product that's a lot more expensive than ours. And there's folks out there that are making product that's a lot less quality than ours. And we want to be able to build the best quality product that your hunter out there can afford. So as we grow as a brand, you're going to see more high performance and maybe some more upper end pieces to compete with some of those kind of upper tier apparel brands that are known for their Western apparel. And but in addition, we want to, our bread and butter is going to be building a fantastic outfit for your guy in Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida that's deer hunting on the weekends.
Well, one thing Adam and I have talked about, with the podcast is, who we'd want to be associated with. And you guys kept coming up because we'd talk about other brands and we wanted to have some high quality stuff to talk about. But some of the other brands out there, the average guy really can't afford it, unless he's buying used gear from somebody else. And, some of these things are so expensive. And that's what we like so much about Nomad is that it's affordable for the average hunter.
Yeah, that's really it. There's, you can walk into a big retailer like Cabela's, and look at some of their product or some of the upper end brands, which which one I'm talking about, or go online and find them. And
yeah,
it really is. They're building some fantastic stuff, but a college kid can't afford that stuff. It's really, a lot of it's very much boutique, and it's during my day in my previous life, UA was really good at really started that trend back in 2004. It was unheard of. We were selling $100 piece of compression thermal base layer, which was unheard of at the time. And the hunting apparel market, the actual, the cost of the stuff is just skyrocketed. And, it's the apparel's really gotten in the last 20 years, hunting apparel has really gotten fantastic. But, with that being said, you're right. It's really, prices have gotten pretty sky high to where your average guy, it's tough to afford. We try to keep it right now in our product line. Our most expensive jacket is $200, but we offer a fantastic jacket that will, they'll keep a hunter warm down to 0 degrees, for right at $100. So that's what we're trying to do is we know apparel, and we realize that a lot of these manufacturers are making a lot more money off the garments than what they need to. So we try to keep our product where it's affordable, but we don't, we do our best not to skimp on the quality in doing so.
Well, I think you've kind of hinted this a little bit a couple times, and I had this to ask you later on, and I just can't wait. I wanted to talk to you about the whole Bomar situation, and I don't know how much you want to touch on the details of that, but that is when I first started becoming aware of your brand, and it seemed like there was an exodus of a lot of hunters and people towards your brand. And through that situation, what is it you think about Nomad that was so attractive?
It was when the whole when the whole situation went down. My phone obviously just started going nuts, and it was a couple days later. Sarah Bomar contacted me, and they showed interest in wearing our apparel, and so and we got together with Chris Ellis, who was our director of PR at the time, and our board of directors, and said, is this something that we want to support? So we made a decision as a board of directors and as founders of the company that if we were gonna work with them and sponsor the Bomars, and we were gonna put a flag in the ground to support all hunting, all legal forms of hunting. So that's what we did. We decided for us, Maryland Outdoor Incorporated, our two brands are hunting and fishing, and so we decided that as long as the founders of the company, as long as we're still on the executive team, that we're going to make a very conscious effort to maybe not do the most politically correct thing, but do the right thing as far as hunting and fishing, shooting sports, and your Second Amendment rights are concerned. So, that's what we did. And it was pretty crazy. Within a week of us announcing that the Bomars were affiliated with us, the anti-hunters started attacking our social media. It was absolutely nuts. And a lot of those anti-hunters were from England, but a lot of them were from America. For example, my big elk I shot, it was 2 years ago. It was posted on our Nomad social media page, and just the comments were just absolutely downright disgusting from the anti-hunters. And so, as a funny side note, I've got a bunch of my buddies in South Carolina that spend a lot of time on blogs to inadvertently reply to all those anti-hunters, and they came up with some extremely witty comments that I probably can't share over a G-rated podcast, but anyhow, it's pretty funny. So yeah, the Bomars, they've become good friends. Josh and Sarah, they're really great people, and they obviously they got in a controversy over spearing a bear, which was legal, and so anyhow, the firestorm social media that ensued was, they wanted to wear our product, so we worked a deal out with them, and they've been great ambassadors for us.
Well, and I'm not even sure, Under Armour made the wrong decision in what they did, but you guys definitely made the right decision in response to it. Just from a business standpoint, I guess I'm saying, not necessarily from an ethically or moral or from a hunting standpoint, but when you look at the big picture, they're not a hunting company versus you guys. That's your bread and butter.
Oh yeah, I mean, first and foremost, we got started. We're not in the business of selling football uniforms, not in the business of selling baseball, basketball, track, and we're not in the business of selling yoga pants. So, we are a first and foremost hunting and fishing company. So, for them to come to us and want to wear our stuff was definitely humbling, and they've been great folks to work with. So, it's definitely different changes in the market and changes in the hunting industry. Fortunately for us at Nomad, we've We've partnered with the right people at the right time, and it's really helped us in a big way grow the brand. Obviously for us, various major retailers and independent retailers nationwide have taken notice and really got behind us and supported us as a brand. So, for us, we're just, like I keep saying, it's, our Nomad brand is for hunters by hunters. So, we obviously just try to do the right thing as far as supporting the industry.
Well, Adam and I have been really excited about starting to talk about some of this gear we've been looking at, and I guess I'm going to start out with turkey. Obviously, as a diehard turkey hunter, there had to be some things that when you got this hunting line going that you knew you had to have in the line. Can you talk about some of the turkey items you have and what some of the things that were important to you to get in the garments and the vests and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. We, when we started the brand, like I said, first and foremost, we knew the biggest market out there were whitetail hunters, but we spent a lot of time hunting out west, and one of our first customers was Sportsman's Warehouse. So we ultimately, out of the gate, we realized that we're, in addition to being a whitetail brand, we were going to get into the big game brand as well. But for me personally, as far as an influence in the company, as Ben Verner, our CEO, said, he says, well, we got to get into our turkey hunting with you being on board. So for me, it was almost it was a very selfish reason for us to get in the turkey business, but it really grew into a great business very quickly for us. And we ultimately, we were in a camp with our partners, a deer camp in Illinois, 2 deer seasons ago. And one of my old bosses at Mossy Oak mentioned that they were coming out with a new NWTF obsession, and that Mossy Oak was going to be the official camouflage of the National Wild Turkey Federation. So after I heard that, I got on the phone to Edgefield, South Carolina, and called up NWTF and told them we'd be interested in potentially working with them. So I made a trip to Edgefield. We worked out a licensing deal to where we became an official licensee of the National Wild Turkey Federation. And, we started building the line from there. So we basically looked at, every turkey hunter is very opinionated in what they're looking for in gear. So, everybody uses their calls. Everybody uses their accessories different. So first and foremost, we knew that most turkey hunting takes place in pretty pleasant conditions. So the biggest thing that you don't need a lot of insulation. You don't need a lot of waterproof type products. You don't need super, technical products, with the exception of maybe your T-shirts and your base layers. But we wanted to make stuff that was soft, stuff that was quiet, stuff that was camouflage. So our traditional orange stitching that we put on a lot of our garments, we realized first and foremost we needed to dumb that down to fool the eyes of the turkey and make it more drab and earth tone colors. And then, from there, the product line kept going. And one of our retailers, Dick's Sporting Goods, our buyer at Dick's, told us, hey, I really like what you're doing, but for you to be able to get some major floor space in our store, I need you to build me a turkey vest. So I'm quite the turkey hunting gear hoarder, and I've got turkey vests from basically ever since turkey vests were made. So what we did was myself and a good buddy of mine down in South Florida, Mike Tussey, he owns Osceola Outdoors, and Chris Ellis from West Virginia, our director of PR. We all got together and we sent our product engineer some of our favorite turkey vests. And he came up with some designs, and about 7 prototypes later, we came up with the MG turkey vest. So this was its first year that came on the market. It did really, really well. A lot of folks absolutely love it, but there are a few pieces on it, a few pockets and some configurations that we think we can make better. So fortunately, we just about sold out of every one we had for 2018. So the 2019 model is going to have a lot of those corrected. But, we looked at we did some features. We did a first in the industry thermocell pocket because most turkey hunters are hunting in warm environments where mosquitoes are present, and you never have a great place to put your thermocell. So
Genius.
came up with an idea to put a thermocell pocket. It was a good old a turkey hunting buddy here from South Carolina. When I was asking, I've got about 20 very hardcore turkey hunting buddies. We're all on a text thread, and I'll bounce ideas off those guys. And these guys, most of them probably spend about 30 days a year in the turkey woods. And one of my buddies said, "Man, why don't you put an extra box call holder on there? It's big enough to hold a thermocell." Like, genius. Why about we just build a thermocell pocket? So, we had about 25 different turkey hunters that have hunted in every state in the United States, that guide, that spend 30 days or more a year in the turkey woods, that all gave ideas towards this vest. So we got to all hunt out of it. Like I said, I've hunted in it this season in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Kansas, Iowa, Missouri, Arizona, Mexico, and getting ready to hit a few more states during the month of May. And it's held up really well. And so we're just going to continue to improve on it for next year. And we've got some really cool stuff coming out. It's, in the apparel world, you're always working a year ahead of time. So we just finished our 2019 spring Nomad catalog. That will have plenty of awesome turkey gear for next year. We've got, in addition to the durable cotton canvas that we had and our performance cooling tees, we've got some more lightweight, almost fishing style type shirts, and some more Western inspired turkey hunting pants coming out next year, in addition to some new accessories and some really cool new updates to our vest. And one thing with Devin Sweeney, who I mentioned, our general manager, who's working on product, is we like to tell this to our buyers: whatever is Nomad right now, the product that we'll be selling you in a year from now is going to make it obsolete. So although we're making really good product that's on the market in 2018, what you're going to find in 2019, 2020, and beyond, we're going to continue to get better. We are nowhere near satisfied with what we've built so far, and we're going to continue to push the envelope and try to come up with better fabrics, better ideas, and better technology for future seasons. So I think that's one thing that you'll find with us. You might see a style that might last 1, 2, maybe at the most 3 seasons, but for the most part, we're going to get innovative and try to get better every season. And we learn, and that's with the apparel business, if you've never worked in it or know how factories make product and things like that, sometimes mistakes get made, or a pocket might be engineered one way and it doesn't quite come out perfect. And we're aware of that, and we will make mistakes, but they get corrected every season. So we're just looking to get better. But our turkey partnership with the National Wild Turkey Federation has been really special. A lot of great retailers nationwide, such as Dick's Sporting Goods and Cabela's and Max Prairie Wings, have really gotten behind us with our turkey line, and it's going to continue to get better.
I'm a little bit of a gear nerd, so I love the, better, more technical products are coming out. But one thing that interests me is that you guys reverted back to old school mossy oak bottomland camo. So I don't know whose idea that was, but I think that was genius. And it's like hit the social media market. As far as what I see being posted on social media, I bet over 50% of the turkey hunters I see are wearing mossy oak bottomland. Who came up with that idea, and is that going to stay? And do you even see maybe a trend of some of your new garments coming out in the future, maybe going back to some of that old school camo, because that's really popular right now?
Oh, absolutely. So, I'm a huge mossy oak bottomland, mossy oak greenleaf fan. I'm myself and Toxie Hayes' sons, Neil and Daniel, are both big collectors of vintage camo. So we compete on eBay, and I've been buying old camo for the last 15 years, old vintage stuff that when I was a little kid I couldn't afford the stuff, and now it's popping up on eBay. So that was definitely coming up with the old mossy oak was something that was my idea. And we look at every different species differently. For example, the old vintage camouflage patterns don't really have a lot of influence for, say, your Western elk hunter or your Western sheep hunter or your Midwest whitetail hunter. But turkey hunters are a very unique breed where turkey hunters, number one, like new technology, but number two, they're steeped in the tradition of the sport. And, many folks, when turkey hunting, really got, hit its prime as far as, in mainstream, when it hit its peak of popularity back in the late 80s and 90s, mossy oak bottomland, mossy oak greenleaf, and the old tree bark camouflage were some of the most, popular patterns back then. So we've got a great relationship with mossy oak, and this year, we did original bottomland, and then our buyer at Dick's Sporting Goods, who's also a big vintage mossy oak fan and a big just turkey hunter traditionalist, we brought mossy oak greenleaf back as well, and it's sold out. So yeah, definitely we're going to continue to we're going to continue to have the vintage patterns, at least in the turkey market. But in addition, we still do have the new patterns. So for what you'll see for 2019 is you will see the original mossy oak bottomland, the old mossy oak greenleaf. But for your new guys that may like something a little different, we are offering the new NWTF Obsession and Realtree Edge for 2019. So we are mixing it up, and we look at every single market very differently. We're not going to be coming out with technical Western hunting gear in old bottomland, or coming out with the warmest whitetail suit in original bottomland. But in particular, amongst turkey hunters, amongst waterfowl hunters, in particular in the Southeast, it's the old vintage patterns are as strong as ever.
Yeah, I gotta agree. It's some good. That's one of those things my wife's a big fan of. So that becomes good hunting wear and casual wear for me. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you talked about selling out a couple times. Can you kind of give us a little bit of inside baseball on that, how that works? Because I remember when QU was first getting started as well, they were always sold out of stuff. How does that work as a newer apparel company and trying to forecast that stuff? And is that something you see improving as you guys get more history?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's for us, in the apparel business, what you want to do is every season, in a perfect world, you want to be out of inventory, because inventory costs money and you want to make money. And when it comes down to it, you don't sell many hunting jackets during the months of May, June, and July. So being out of inventory is not a bad thing, because you're going to be coming up with new stuff. Now, if you're out of inventory during the peak season, then it is a bad thing. So, anybody that's ever been in the apparel business, regardless of the category they're in, whether it's football, baseball, fashion, whether you're selling men's suits, things like that, forecasting is a major part of it. So, we've brought on planners and forecasters that basically all they do is crunch numbers day in and day out on that. But one thing that we have known working for the various brands we work for, it's very difficult as a popular brand to be able to forecast enough. You don't know how popular a product's going to be. So it makes it, sometimes difficult in ordering enough. It's in the apparel business, it's long lead times. It's somewhere, up to 6 months. And like I said, the way the apparel business works, just to give you an idea of our timelines, is our Nomad Spring 2019 catalogs are getting printed this week. We're having a sales meeting in a week and a half from now. And then starting the third week of May, I'm going to be on the road selling product during the month of May that won't ship until February. So retailers place orders with us and give us an idea of how much to order. And then we obviously use different calculations and say, okay, these major key retailer is going to buy this much. Then the independent retailer is going to buy this much. Then we need to buy this much for online, and how much do we expect to grow? So a lot of it is looking into a crystal ball and thinking, okay, this camo pattern is going to be more popular than this camo pattern, and this jacket's going to be more popular than the other jacket. So, there's a lot of mathematics, there's a lot of guessing, and there's a lot of very calculated, educated guesses on how much to build. So it's always a work in progress, and working, in our previous lives, working for major apparel companies, and several of our board members have worked for monstrous apparel companies. It's a full-time job in trying to forecast how much product to build for future seasons.
So tell me a little bit about the new camo that you have coming out geared towards your Western big game wear. I know you got a couple of new pieces. If you could also maybe mention those two pieces that you have coming out for the Western guys.
Yeah, so we've got a new big game collection that we did a deal with Sportsman's Warehouse, which is our biggest Western retailer out in Salt Lake City, Utah. They've got a number of stores all over the nation, but they're particularly strong out west, and they wanted to come up with a brand name, to compete with various brands that are selling consumer direct. So they were looking for what they call a non-stick and leave camo. So we worked with a company that called Veil that developed camouflage, which is an abstract camouflage that doesn't use stick and leaves, which has become popular in the Western markets. And we've come up with basically a collection of very technical gear to basically satisfy every Western hunter's needs. Whether you're a elk hunter, an antelope hunter, or chasing sheep, we've got basically everything that you need, from a lightweight two-way stretch pant to a super lightweight t-shirt, all the way to 10,000 membrane rainwear to waterproof down insulation. So we've got a fantastic, we're calling it the Big Game Collection. It's available in the camo pattern's called Veil Cervidae, which is a very unique looking pattern, very different from the stick and lead patterns that you see on the market. And it was just available to Sportsman's Warehouse for 2017, but it's going to be at retailers nationwide, numerous retailers, and online at nomad.com this fall. So I got a chance to test it out last October on elk hunt, New Mexico, and one of the pants we developed is literally the best hunting pant I've ever worn. So it's some really great gear at an affordable price compared to some of the other very technical Western hunting apparel brands out there.
Is that the Approach pant?
That is, yes. It's fantastic.
That's the one I was looking at.
Yeah,
are you guys going to make that in a solid color? That would be awesome if you'd come out with also maybe a brown.
I believe we will. And that's going to be our plan. Is it seems like in some of the Western hunters, the trend is moving to some more solid colors. So that is definitely on the drawing board for future seasons. So. And we're actually going to be taking a version of that pant, taking it to the turkey world for spring of 2019 as well. We're just absolutely in love with that pant. It's literally the best hunting pant that I've ever worn. It's as far as doing a lot of walking and a lot of moving. Our product engineer that designed that did a heck of a job on it.
Well, those pants just made my shopping list. That's
same
next
here
on my list. I need to get a set of those before scouting starts up in the summer.
Oh yeah.
So let's move over to the whitetail world a little bit. I'm really interested in your new Cottonwood series, and the first question I'll ask, definitely talk about the series, all the technical specs of it, but also maybe mention if that will overtake the Dunn Primaloft. Is that going to be one of those items that goes away and this replaces it, or how's that going to work?
Well, no, not actually. So we have the Dunn Primaloft series. We'll be back. We'll have it coming back for 2018. But the Cottonwood really sold well to all the retailers, and we are super, super excited about the Cottonwood series. Myself, as well as several of my coworkers, we spent a lot of time bow hunting in the Midwest, and obviously the Cottonwood name comes from Midwest. The Cottonwood, cottonwood trees all along the creek bottoms are what basically you bow hunt out of. And we wanted to come up with a fleece series that was super, super quiet, but it had a windproof laminate to keep you warm. One thing that we realized in our previous lives is if you don't put a laminate, what some people call a wind stopper, inside your garment, you're not going to stay warm. So there's a fine line between having a laminate and a wind stopper and staying quiet, because the two really don't go hand in hand together. So developing this jacket, our guys hit the nail on the head, our product guys. It is super quiet, but keeps you windproof. So it was designed as a traditional bow hunting piece. It's just a fantastic. We've got a quarter zip as well as a pant coming out, and they retail for $179 a piece. And the closest thing on the market that we found retails for $399. Very similar garment from one of our competitors. So we are super excited about it. It's got coming out in Mossy Oak Country as well as Realtree Edge, and it's really going to be one of those. It's going to become a lot of people's favorite jacket. Now, our Dunn Primaloft series is going to continue to stay in the line. It is probably the warmest jacket on the market, to my knowledge. There's nothing warmer than it's an absolute oven. You really don't want to put it on unless it's sub-freezing temperatures. It'll keep you that warm. So the Dunn is the Cottonwood. We sold a lot more of the Cottonwood pieces into retailers than we did the Dunn, but the Dunn is going to be one of those pieces that if you happen to be hunting somewhere where the wind chill's around 0 degrees, you're going to just stay super warm in it.
So most of our listeners are actually from the Southeast. So I'm trying to figure out the perfect whitetail layering system for them. And for myself, really, this is kind of this is a question for me. But hunting in Tennessee, I sometimes get down into the teens. Will the Cottonwood series get me there with proper layering underneath, or would you suggest the Primaloft? So that kind of the teens from the 30 degree.
Yeah, I think you'd be fine wearing a Cottonwood series. Basically, I'll be wearing a base layer, then maybe wearing something like one of our hoodies, or maybe a Dunn vest underneath is going to be fine. Going to keep you plenty warm down in the teens. Now, if you happen to venture like I did, I hunted 6 days in Ohio in January, which was absolutely miserable, but I stayed warm. It would warm up to about 8 or 9 degrees every day, and the wind chill was below 0, and I wore the Dunn and was fine. But it was, when it gets that cold, I mean, it's just, it's a lot of people are used to it. And, I think that our Dunn series in around that 0 degree mark's going to be fine. But, for the majority of the listeners, the Cottonwood's going to keep you plenty warm in sub-freezing temperatures. It's going to be one of those pieces you probably wear. You can probably wear it at 50 degrees or cooler. Once it warms up much above 60 degrees, you might want to wear something a little more lightweight than our Cottonwood or Dunn. But those are going to be our two warmest pieces that we have. The Cottonwood is is going to be more for the bow hunter, and then your done piece, although it's quiet enough to wear for bow hunting, it's definitely, I think of it as a guy that goes to Saskatchewan, sits in the snow for all day long. It's going to keep him super warm.
I'll tell you one thing I was really impressed about with the Dun series is I'm a run and gun hunter. Most of my sits, I'm either climbing or hanging. This year I did a lot of hanging hunts. So I use both your Dun series and I use some other companies' camouflage, basically kind of like the bibs and the big jackets, the parkas. And it is absolutely impossible to hang a tree stand with the big bibs and a jacket. But for some reason, your Dun series, it just feels like it's a little closer to you. You don't feel like the abominable snowman, so it's not catching on all your steps. And for the run and gun hunter, like that Dun series was the ticket. I used that up in Kentucky when it was really stinking cold, and I enjoyed that series. And I was also thinking maybe your new barrier set might go good with the Cottonwood series underneath as an insulation piece. I don't know if that's something you've toyed with, but I like doing a lot of my mountain wear hunting clothing as undergarment for my deer hunting stuff. So when I'm walking in, if I'm sweating, that heat is kind of going outside, but when I get to my tree stand, I put on something like the Dun series or maybe the Cottonwood, it traps it, and then you continue to stay warm. So I don't know if that's a piece you might also elaborate on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And our, those collections aren't quite sold together, the Western type things. But, with that being said, our barrier system is fantastic as far as, like exactly what you just said, as far as, it wicks moisture. So that vest in particular, I wore that elk hunting a good bit when it was in the 30s and 40s, but when I was having to walk 5 miles plus, it's one of those pieces that really dries out pretty quick. So yeah, that's an absolutely great idea as far as layering. If you're, doing a lot of hanging, doing a lot of walking, there's nothing worse than walking 2 miles through soybeans that are up a hill, and then climbing 25 feet up your stand, and then being soaking wet. For me, I'm not in the best shape ever, and by November of this year, I'd completely given up my elk hunting diet. And so I remember one day getting to Iowa, hunting in Iowa this fall. I got to my tree stand and I was just absolutely soaked. So yeah, having a starting from the base and having good performance fabrics that wick moisture but keep you warm, super important. So I've found that our Dun jacket, it's always good to have strapped to your backpack or something of that nature while you're walking in, because it definitely will heat you up really quick.
Do not walk in with that stuff, because it is warm, and that is something I did as I strapped it on. Yeah, I didn't have it on when I was walking.
That's one thing, and I talk about us always striving to get better and build better apparel, build better products. But I think one thing that anybody that's worn our Nomad outerwear from our Dun series to our Harvester series so far will tell you is that our stuff will keep you warm. That's for sure. We're not getting any complaints of folks hunting in sub-freezing temperatures and getting cold. So that's definitely not that's definitely not a problem we're hearing as far as our gear is concerned.
So where does your Harvester series fit in between the Dun series and the new Cottonwoods?
So our Harvester series is basically it's our number one selling jacket, our Harvester jacket, basically because of price point. You can get into a Harvester for the actual the one with the hood, I believe, is $129.99, and the one without the hood is $99.99. And it has a great windproof laminate. It has a faux fur, real fuzzy type material that folks just love the feel of it. And it'll keep you super warm. It's a great, it's one of those pieces that based on the laminate and based off its natural insulation properties with the Berber type fleece we have on the inside, it's a type of garment that'll keep you plenty warm down to the teens. Our cottonwood and our Dunn series have a little more insulation, but the Harvester is super quiet, super great piece, and it's basically a piece that most hunters can get into for $200 for the entire set. So it's something that it's quiet enough to bow hunt in. It'll keep you warm enough down to the teens and 20s, and number three, it's affordable. So it's become our number one selling series on the as far as Nomad's concerned. It's going into third year, and it's really very rarely do I find myself in a situation in the Midwest where during the whitetail rut where that's not what I'm not wearing. I mean, it's just a great overall piece. So it'll be interesting to see this year if the cottonwood overtakes it in popularity. More than likely it won't, just because the cottonwood retails for about $80 more, and folks really like that price point in the low $100, just from an affordability standpoint.
Do you see the sizing or the fit changing? So right now I would consider your products I'd consider it kind of an athletic fit, but it's not so much like a skinny jean. So on your technical side of your clothing, is that ever going to narrow down, or are you going to kind of keep that the same?
Yeah, so it's gonna vary. So what we're gonna do on pieces like our cottonwood and Dunn, and every season we're gonna try to improve the fit. One thing that being in the apparel business, there's no what's very interesting is being in the apparel business as long as I have is there's no correct fit out there. For example, just naming some brands out there, a pair of Wrangler jeans in a size 36 is going to fit different than a pair of Levi's jeans in size 36. It's going to fit different than a pair of Carhartt pants in size 36. It's going to fit different than a pair of dress pants in size 36. So, it all varies. Now, I think what we're going to do is the Western type gear is going to be a little more athletic cut going forward. It'll have a little more tape. It won't be quite as baggy in the calf area. It'll be a little more tapered, not quite skinny jean like you said, but a little more athletic cut for Western hunters that are typically thinner for the most part and are looking for a little bit faster and not having the bagginess. Whereas something like the cottonwood or something like the Dunn, you want a little more room in there. Number one, for insulation purposes. Number two, so you can wear a base layer underneath and still have plenty of room. So we're going to get better with our fits. Every season is a challenge to get the fits uniform, but we are going to try to make it to where every garment is fit specific and cut specific based on the end pursuit. So like you said, our Western faster garments are going to be cut a little more athletic, whereas some of our more insulated whitetail garments are going to be a little roomier, just so you can do more layering.
Or because whitetail hunters are not as good shape as Western hunters.
I was so thinking that we need a little extra room in the gut section.
Yeah, not always, not always, but definitely. It's very funny growing up in South Carolina and the whole trend for that has started in the last 15 years about the whole trend about working out to hunt and athletes hunt and the different trend for a lot of the different supplemental brands and things like that apply to your average South Carolina hunter who can drive his four-wheeler up to his ladder stand and waddle up there. So, it's very, and I'm definitely guilty of it as well. I've got a long way to go before I get an elk shape for next season, and I'm way, way away from being in sheep shape right now. But yes, you typically find your Western hunters do a lot more walking and typically need to be in better shape for the most part if you're going to be in particular somebody that's going on a sheep hunt. I've been on 2 of them, and one was successful. The second one was pretty miserable, and I can assure you I would have loved to have been a lot lighter on both of those hunts than I was, and it had been a lot more enjoyable.
It's just a different type of shape. We need more insulation for staying in the sand for long sits. You skinny bony guys, they might not be able to sit there a long time.
Exactly.
Well, you mentioned base layers, and I know you have a few base layer pieces out there. Are there any plans to develop new types of synthetics, any merino wools, and maybe tell us a little bit about the base layers that you have on the market today?
Yeah, so we basically came out with 2 base layers from our first year. We came out with a polyester base layer that we called the Heartwood, which was your typical polyester base layer. Wick moisture, fits great, keeps you good and insulated. And then we came up with a sapwood, which was a merino base layer. We are big fans of merino. But you have some problems with merino. Number one, it's really expensive. And number 2, merino is not really that durable. You have to, put some different synthetics in there to make it more durable. But ultimately, we do have our Heartwood series that's going to be available online. We've discontinued our sapwood merino series for the time being. But for 2018, that's what we do have available is the polyester Heartwood. For future seasons, you're going to see more base layers come out. I can tell you that there's a lot of the market has been very, very saturated with other brands' base layers the last few years. So it's been difficult for major retailers to pick up our base layer, mainly because they build their own. There's a few companies out there that have small brand names that build base layers, really good base layers for a lot of the major retailers. And in our mind is right now there's a lot of great base layer out there, but there's nothing that's been innovative in the last, say, 10 or 15 years. So we didn't want to just come up with something just to have a base layer, just to say, hey, this is me too. We've got the exact same thing you do. So we're working on the drawing board trying to come up with something special for 2019, and I think we'll hit it on the head. We'll have some various different weights, some various different fabrics, and I think merino wool is the future. I don't know that the entire hunting market has basically adopted merino wool quite yet, but I think merino is the future. I know I'm a big fan of it, and I think as merino gets better and technology makes it more durable and more affordable, I think that it's going to eventually potentially overtake polyester one day. And based on our past lives, we know an awful lot about selling polyester-based layers.
Well, you definitely got me excited about what you got coming up, because I'll be honest, when you and Adam talk about all these like cold temperatures and layering up and all this kind of stuff, I'm thinking about down here in Florida where 80% of the season, I'm trying to wear the least amount of clothes as possible because it's it's sweating like
absolutely.
crazy. So when you're ready for somebody to sweat a lot, product testing, you got me down here.
There we go. Well, our cooling tee that we have on the Nomad side is very similar to the same shirt we have on the Hook side, our Icon tee, which is basically has a mesh ventilation from your shoulder blades all the way down to your tailbone. And like I tell people, here in South Carolina, our deer season opens August 15th. So I basically put on one of those T-shirts, a pair of our shorts, a pair of snake boots, and took my thermocell with me on opening day. So it's very, very similar to the early season down in Florida. So we also make great hot weather apparel as well. So we've got you. We basically have a hunter covered, whether he's hunting in -10 all the way up to 110 degrees. So whatever your climate is, we built something for you to keep you comfortable in those temperatures.
Yeah, I know you all start early in South Carolina, so you're plenty familiar with hunting in hot weather.
Yeah, it's pretty miserable, but it's kind of after you grow up doing it, it's kind of like you feel guilty if you're not out there. So it definitely it definitely is somewhat crazy, but it's one of the few opportunities to get a buck in velvet anywhere in the country. So it's definitely definitely a tradition here in South Carolina. But if I'm not mistaken, South Florida's got the earliest deer season in the country, opening up in July, or the earliest whitetail season. So I know it's absolutely miserable that time of year.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I have not braved the South Florida early archery season. That seems ridiculous. Can't say I wouldn't do it, but haven't done it yet. Um, One thing I noticed you haven't talked about at all is scent control. I just wanted to get your take on that because obviously that's not the number one priority going in all these garments.
No, well, to be honest with you, we one thing that we do have, and I didn't mention it because we have the technology on everything we build in our whitetail, is we call it Silver Z scent technology. We use a mixture of silver as well as zeolites, and that's on every garment from our cooling tee all the way to our done series. And the entire scent and carbon market and those those various brands that over the years have hung their hat on that. We decided first and foremost that now the technology for scent control has come so far that it's almost a basic feature to the garments that's really just should be accepted. All of our garments feature our Silver Z scent technology. So I guess one reason that I didn't spend a lot of time discussing it is we've had it in our garments for the last few years. The technology works fantastic, and it's we spend a lot more time worrying about the fabric, the fit, and the performance, and obviously for those hunters that have to have the scent technology, we check that box as well. So for us, it's a feature that's just very common on our products, and one that you'll find on everything that we make in the fall.
Well, I'm not personally really concerned, especially being down here sweating so much. I don't feel like there's a whole lot I can do other than
Well,
I'm glad
you
it
can hunt the wind.
sounds. Yeah, right. I hunt the wind. It sounds like you learned some things from your Under Armour days. I've got some Under Armour shirts that I cannot get the stink out of. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you got something in them, not necessarily for the deer, but for myself.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, one thing with polyester is you have to, absolutely is a must to have an antimicrobial treatment to the fabric. Sometimes, unfortunately, that antimicrobial treatment wears out and you end up smelling like a football locker room. So one thing that we've got in all of our garments that have a polyester base is we do use antimicrobial treatment as well as the Silver Z scent technology. So you can wear one of our shirts and sweat in it all day long down in Florida, and you're not going to stink too bad.
Well, that's something for me to get excited about. I guess wanted to do one last transition here. You already talked about partnering up with the NWTF, and I wanted to see if there's any other organizations you guys support or have partnered up with as far as supporting hunting and fishing and basically, conservation in the outdoors.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're very being a hunting and fishing brand, we're very supportive of the industry. As far as formal agreements are concerned, we've with the National Wild Turkey Federation, we've definitely we're an official licensee of theirs. We're going to be working with the Quality Deer Management Association at some capacity. We haven't figured out exactly what that is. And then, as far as other organizations out there, we've donated product to Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation on the fishing side, CCA. In addition, Guy Harvey's foundation, we've donated, made contributions there. So as we grow and as we make more money and become more profitable, I think you'll see us as brands giving more money back to conservation, because it's super important. And the various sports that we're in, whether it's turkey hunting, whether it's elk hunting, whether it's mule deer hunting whatsoever. It's I've been as far as coming from a background working for the QDMA and working for a 501c3. We know how important that is, and know how important the future of hunting and shooting sports and the fishing industry is to our business. So I think you'll find us very, very supportive of that. Here, locally in South Carolina, we work with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, and they have an agency industry sport fishing council that we sit on and participate in. And then with the National Wild Turkey Federation, I volunteer on their National Foundation Board. So I think with what you'll find with us as far as Hook and Nomad's concerned is if you go to some conservation banquets anywhere in the nation, whether it's a Mule Deer Foundation banquet, a Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation banquet, a South Carolina Ducks Unlimited banquet, a National Wild Turkey Federation banquet, or a CCA banquet, there's a good chance you'll find some of our gear there that we donated.
Well, we didn't talk about this ahead of time, so I knew I was going to be putting you on the spot a little bit with that, but I knew with your messaging, you wouldn't disappoint on that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, we're and that I think what you're going to find is as we grow as brands, and like I said, get more profitable, I think our conservation portfolio is going to get bigger and bigger. And as we sell more product, then we definitely want to give back. Number one, because it's the right thing to do, and then number two, we're sportsmen, and we understand that the future of hunting and fishing is very important, not only to our business but to our livelihoods.
Hart, one thing I'm really interested in and we didn't cover was release dates on new products. When will listeners and customers be able to hit up your website and find products, or even at retailers?
So what you will find is our new 2018 product, which basically our entire product line has new logos. Everything's basically brand new that's hitting the market, is going to be out mid-July is the release date. So I think you'll find products. I don't know that every single product. Sometimes some factories may be a little later than others, but at the very least by August, you should find just about everything we make at retailers nationwide, as well as on nomad-outdoor.com. Nomad-outdoor.com will carry every single product we make, and then various retailers bought into products, at different levels. And, from a big box standpoint, you'll find us this fall. You'll find us in Dick's Sporting Goods and their Field and Stream stores. You'll find us in academies nationwide. You'll find us in Sportsman's Warehouses. Find us in Gander Mountain, and numerous independent retailers nationwide. I think we're in about 200 various independent stores in just about every state in the country. So there's a lot of those that I can name, but those are some of the key ones that may fall over the listeners' area that have numerous doors. So right now, as far as the brand's concerned, we're definitely strong in the South where we're from, but the Midwest is a strong area for us, the West as well as the Northeast. And we've got sales reps covering us in all 50 states, and we've got distribution nationwide. So our Nomad brand is you can just about it'll be tough anywhere this fall to go within a couple hundred miles and not be able to find us at a retailer. And if your favorite hunting retailer does not carry Nomad this fall, then you can certainly request that they do so. We'd be happy to sign them up if they don't have it already.
Is there anything that you would want to add to this discussion, or maybe get in front of listeners before your new product's released that you'd want them to know about? First and foremost, like I said, is I've said it several times before. One of the mottos of our company is we're built for hunters by hunters. So I think what you'll find in our garments that you look at this fall is it's going to be very difficult to find more value out there for the price that you pay for our garments. And I think that with an investment of under $1,000, you can be comfortable. You can have just about every set of apparel we build that'll keep you
as warm as you can be when it's -10 outside to as cool as you can be at 10 degrees. And, for the most part, you can, if you're hunting in somewhere with cold conditions, as most folks hunting the fall will do, we can keep you super warm for $200. So, I think what you'll find is the quality of our product based on the price, I think is exceptional. So, number one, we got in the apparel business by chance for work, but we're sportsmen first and foremost. So I think you'll find that our garments are very well thought out, and because basically they're designed and tested by hunters. So we spend a lot of time in the field, and I think our garments will show that.
Well, Hart, I know we kept you late. I really appreciate you sticking on with us. I think we covered a lot of good ground and learned a lot about your company. So thanks so much for coming on with us tonight.
Oh, thank you for having us. We appreciate you giving us the opportunity to help to give us the opportunity to talk about it. So it's definitely we appreciate the support, and we really appreciate it as well.
Well, and I talked about at the beginning of the show that we were going to get into tactics, and you know what? We got so much into this gear, which we love, that we haven't even gotten into that. So we might have to have you back on to talk a little bit turkey hunting tactics.
That would be good.
That would be fine. I'm planning on hunting northern states every weekend between now and the 1st of June. So we've got another month to talk turkey. So I'll be heading to Delaware and Maryland this weekend. The next weekend, New Hampshire, Massachusetts. The next weekend, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and then finishing the season in New York. So I haven't quite scratched my itchy trigger finger yet. So hopefully I'll get to see a few more flop before turkey season 2018 is over.
We wish you all the best and most luck.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've been done for 2 weeks. I'm already moving on to deer season, and you still got another month and a half to go.
Yeah, I'm kind of eat up with it for sure. So.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks again so much for coming on with us.
Guys,
and,
thank you so much. I really appreciate y'all.
We're really excited about working with you going forward. I think you guys got some great things coming.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we need to get y'all wearing the gear this fall, and I'm going to definitely pay attention on the podcast, and we really appreciate the support.
Absolutely. Thanks, Hart.
Thank you.
Take care.
Well, I want to get into some tactics and stuff later if you're so into turkey hunting, and of course I'll leave that up to Adam because he's our resident expert. But Adam, I didn't tell you about this. I kind of got a new idea for the podcast. I think we should ask our guests a controversial question just to start out with, just so they don't feel like they're not going to offend anybody through the rest of the podcast.
That's a pretty good idea, actually.
So my first question for you is, Hart, how do you feel about snakes?
Well, I can tell you this much. I've got a degree in wildlife biology, and one of my senior research papers had to write on what animals should be considered endangered and is not in many states. And I wrote that paper on the eastern diamondback rattlesnake. Now, with that being said, I'm very educated on snakes, but there's 3 kinds of snakes that I don't like. Those are live snakes, dead snakes, and sticks that look like snakes. So I'm absolutely terrified of snakes. And when I'm in the woods and encounter one, I pretty much go from a very large 40-year-old grown man into a little 6-year-old girl. So yes, I'm terrified of snakes. I don't like them one bit. And although I'm educated by them, there's something prehistoric in my system that makes me turn inside out when I see one.
All right.
I appreciate your honesty for one, and share your fear of snakes. I can't stand them suckers either.
Perfect. You guys are gonna love this story. Then I got a story for you. It might make you squirm a little bit. So last night I'm at my son's baseball game, and I get a call from my sister who lives in town here, and she's like, "Where are you?" And I told her I was at the game, and she's like, "Well, I need you to get over here. We got a snake in the laundry room." And I was like, "Well, I'm at the game. It's gonna be a while." And she's like, "No, I need you to come now." So anyways, but the game is about over. So I start heading over to her house, and I took my oldest daughter with me. My kids, I try to get them outside. They like seeing stuff like that. So but I knew I could only take her, and I had to hurry up and get out of there. Otherwise, I'd be having. I got 4 kids. They all would have wanted to come. So I'm halfway there, and I get a picture of the snake, and this thing to me looks like a monster, and it's sitting on top at the top of this hamster cage that's in their laundry room. And
What?
my brother-in-law, her husband's home, but he was not coming near the thing. So I get there and everybody's like freaking out in the whole house, and they're like all upstairs, like away from the room. My brother-in-law's got this big old stick in his hand. Um, so I went down there, and it was a corn snake or a yellow rat snake, so not poisonous or anything. Um, and but this thing was big. I'm not really scared of snakes at all. But I this was surprising to me. So I went in there. My experience with them is they're not typically real aggressive. So I was going to try to pick it up. And so first I got the stick to make sure he wasn't going to bite the stick. Um, so I kind of messed with that for a while. Finally got enough confidence, just grabbed a hold of him, and he started freaking out and was like knocking stuff off the shelves and everything. Finally like reeled him in. He was like, he's their constrictor, so he's like wrapping around stuff. And I finally got him in. I grabbed behind his head and took him outside, and the whole house was just going nuts. And, so I got him outside and held the thing up. He's like 5.5 feet long. So I know there's like,
Oh man.
some bigger snakes out there, some, 8-foot rattlers and that kind of stuff. And I wouldn't mess with that. But so I had to bring it home to let my other kids see it, because I knew they'd be really disappointed. All these pictures on Facebook and stuff. And so I brought it home, and my wife was so PO'd at me. She told me she's gonna kick me, kick me while I was sleeping if I brought it in the house. Kick me where it counts. Anyway, I let the kids see it, all this stuff, and then I got this idea. And he doesn't listen to the podcast. I don't need to worry about ruining the surprise. But I thought, the pet store might take this thing as a trade. So we called the pet store, and they said they'd take it. So I took it to the pet store today, and this is the best part of the story. So this girl in the store, I guess she's like really comfortable with snakes and stuff. And last night I held it without any problems and just careful. Well, I was real careful. She just opens the bag up and grabs the thing out and is like, "Oh, he's beautiful." The thing turns around and like latches onto her arm right in the front of the store.
Ouch.
And all these people in the front of the store are like, "Oh my gosh." And so it lets go and it grabs her again. And all these other customers are like, "Are you okay? Didn't you get that?" And she's like, "Oh, I've been bit all the time." And blood is like going down her arms. This girl was nuts. Anyway,
Well,
sorry to like overtake my own podcast with a long story, but I just thought that story was crazy. Thought I'd share it with everybody.
yeah, man, that freaks me out. That's like a nightmare. I have nightmares of having snakes in the house. Like, yeah, that's definitely not me. Some people are freaked out by spiders. I don't have any problem around spiders, but snakes, it doesn't matter. They can be small, non-poisonous, poisonous, monstrous. I'm freaked out by all of them.
Well, I felt kind of tough getting the snake and stuff, but when I go to the store and the girl just yanks it out and she like lets it latch onto her arm and is like, it's no big deal. Kind of put me in my place a little bit with it.